Hello and welcome to all of you out there, my dear astrology friends. This is going to be a very short video about the Mercury retrograde in Aries and in Pisces. So why is it short? Because it's a repetition of the monthly horoscopes that I've been doing, but also the Venus retrograde in Aries and in Pisces that I already did. I put a link at the end of the video if you haven't seen it already. And it all boils down to this very big emphasis on Aries and Pisces, that part of your chart. So this is a bit of a repetition when it comes to the areas of your life, but Mercury is not Venus. So that's why I'm doing these videos separately. I could have done a video like Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde together because it's around the same timing. But I think doing it apart separately is better. Anyway, what is this all about? Let's talk after this video. You should know what this is all about on a collective level. What is the ingredient of a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aries and in the sign of Pisces? What does it mean? And in particular, why is it called a Neptunian, Nordnodian kind of Mercury retrograde? And then I'm going to look very quickly now through the 12 signs, the areas of life where you will be feeling this energy the most. So, but let's get started. The technicalities, right? For the nerdy astrologers amongst us, we want to know the details. Okay, this Mercury retrograde is starting on the 16th, around and about the 16th of March, 14th, 15th, 16th of March, Mercury will slow down and it will be at 9 degrees of Aries. 9 degrees of Aries. Keep that in mind. Then it goes the 16th of March, 17th, and so on until the end of the month of March. The 31st of March, it will get into Pisces again, right? Because it's like the 9th, the 8th, the 7th, you understand, right? And then it's going to be at 29 degrees of Pisces, around and about the 30th, 31st of March, 1st of April. The Mercury retrograde goes direct again, round and about the 7th, 8th of April. And that's going to be at 26 degrees of Pisces. Then it starts to go 27 Pisces and so on, up until 9 degrees of Aries again. So then it will be out of its shadow, we call it, on the 26th of April. And the shadow period starts already around the end of February, beginning of March. So which is about in a week, if you're watching this on the 20th of February, for instance, when I made this video. The shadow period that starts around the 27th, 28th of February, the 1st of March, that will be around 26 degrees of Pisces, that Mercury. So Mercury retrogrades are very common. They happen like 3 times, 4 times a year. And this one is the first one of the year of 2025. So no big deal. We know we have those retrogrades. They're not evil. They're not evil. They're just in the sky. It seems like that planet goes backwards. But it's typically a reassessment of what? Of Mercury stuff. So Mercury stuff is the way that we think. It's the way that we communicate. It's what we say, what we have said. And so especially when the shadow period starts still in Pisces, when Mercury will still be in Pisces. But that period of the end of February, I would say my advice is to watch your tongue, and particularly when it gets into Aries, because this is a typical Mercury retrograde of reassessing what we have said and or what others said to us, depending on where this is happening in your chart. Because Pisces is, of course, a very silent Mercury there. And Aries is a very loud Mercury. Why? Because Aries is ruled by Mars, which is energy, which is drive. And when it's in Pisces, it's a very yin sign, Pisces. So there's going to be a time of reassessing what we've said and pondering and so on. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, not at all. Of course, it's not nice when we say something because we are angry, or especially when Mercury is in Aries, when it still goes direct, and we say something because we think and it might be the truth, it's probably the truth, but when you say these things like you're an asshole towards your boss, it might be the truth, but it's not always a good thing, to do, because remember, Aries is all about, I say things now, and I say things because I feel it. It's like an instinct that I have to say this, and then I'm rid of it. But afterwards, is of course, Aries is the opposite sign of Libra. Libra is all about connecting and fairness and all of that. Then you can start wondering and thinking, what I said, isn't that a bit too direct? Isn't that a bit, it's not nuanced, let's put it that way. So we're all going to deal with things that are being said and so on that might be a little bit more too harsh when it's in Aries, and when it's in Pisces, particularly because the North Node is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, and at the end of March it's going to shift into Aries. So it's also on that point between those two signs. But that Mercury, when it's in Pisces, it's still a bit more about unclarity, things that are said that, well, what the hell is happening? I don't know it anymore. I don't see it anymore. What's going on? And it could just mean that you are missing a piece of information. And that is like delusional almost, right? If you miss a big part, or not a big part, but an important part of an information, you can't really be objective and you can't really think in a rational way, right? That is more the Mercury and Pisces energy, that we can be misled or we mislead ourselves because we don't want to see something unconsciously or consciously, or simply we look at something and we make something else out of it. It is so possible. I remember when I was, I'll give you an example of this energy that we are in now. So it's a bit delusional. And on the other hand, it is very much about being too harsh. So I'll give you an example of this Mercury, Neptune, and Mercury and Pisces. I remember that I was, it was about documents. I needed a document, and you go to the city and the administration, or how do you call it, and there's numbers there. There's numbers, like when you have a piece of paper, because you're not the first person or one person who's there and getting their documents. There are plenty of people there. So you put a ticket, there's a ticket and the number, you wait until your number is on the screen, right? I was having that day a very short transit, which is called Neptune on your Mercury, which is a bit, or was it Mercury on my Neptune, which is a bit like Mercury in Pisces and this energy that I'm talking about. And as I was looking at the screen, there were plenty of numbers, and my ticket number was on it, and I didn't see it. And I was looking at the screen, but I was not looking at that particular, let's say there are 5 numbers on the screen, and I was looking away from my own number for some reason. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, but I just saw all the other numbers. And I was standing there. And it was a person who said to me, excuse me, ma'am, your number is on the screen. That I, all of a sudden, oh, okay, my number is on the screen, it's my turn. I know, it's a long story, but long story short, this is the energy that we are in. So, what I'm trying to say here, especially now, hang on, I want to be specific here. Now and between, you could say, the end of March, it is very much Aries-like. So watch the tongue and not being too direct, especially, kind of count to 10 if you feel instinctively that you want to do something or say something in this case. And then when it is about the 31st of March, up until then it's going to be in Pisces. The 31st of March up until you could say approximately the 16th of April, that Mercury is going to be in Pisces. Then it is watch, not your tongue, but watch that those disillusions, those things that you think that are not true, and so on and so on. And it's not really about, look, people are lying to you, or for doing that consciously. It's not always like that. It can be, but mostly it's because we're not attuned. We're not attuned the right way. So, and of course, when this Mercury goes direct, we will feel that things start flowing again. So specifically when Mercury is, after the 8th of April, we will feel that things go forward. And then it is a good time to sign contracts, to travel, and so on. Again, don't think that, oh my goodness, I'm traveling during a Mercury retrograde, it's bad. It's not. Just take into consideration that you're going to reassess something, and that things are going a bit different than you thought that they would go. I've seen it as well happening, and I'm not saying that because I'm probably the most positive astrologer around here, but with the Mercury retrograde, I've also seen it happening in my own life. That I said, okay, I'm traveling during a Mercury retrograde. Okay, the flight will not be 2 hours, but probably 5 hours. Guess what happened with the Mercury retrograde? It's out of own experience. Guess what happened? Because if the wind was positive, or the wind was in the right way, or whatnot, it was a flight of 1 hour and a half. You see, it's simply not what you thought is going to happen. So the best way to do is actually, the best attitude is detach from the outcome. It really is. And of course, you may have a wish, like I want this or that, but detach from the outcome and accept that, timing and all of that, and Mercury, which is traffic and all of that, it is in everyone's concern that it's best as it's happening at the period of time. So yes, if you do travel, take some books extra, and who knows, you're going to be there like me, a bit quicker than you thought. So just be prepared and accept that these things happen. And this has nothing to do with you. This has nothing to do with, oh, this always happens to me, or this happens to a lot of people, and it's not personal. So don't take this personal. That's a good thing as well, because you are an element of the whole, and maybe because your delay is good for someone else, or it's good for whatever, for everyone involved. Basically, go from that mind state, and it won't be that experience as annoying, right? Now, but these periods of the Mercury retrograde are definitely not here to annoy us. They are here to make things, areas of our lives, even better after when Mercury goes direct. And that is something that I've seen time and time again. If we focus on that particular area where there's going to be probably some problems or some challenges, if we kind of focus on it in a positive way, and then the Mercury goes direct again, we will feel that, oh my goodness me, this is so much better. I'll give a simple example. Let's say you have that in your third house, which is very annoying because the third house is a house of communication and whatnot. So you're dealing, for instance, with, let's say Mercury goes retrograde in your third house, you're dealing with some internet problems, and your internet provider, you're trying to fix it, and whatever you're doing with the Mercury retrograde, my goodness me, they're not helping you for whatever reason. It's, again, don't take it personal. Certainly not. You're just a number for these people. But of course, people work there, so they do their best. But for some sort of way, they can't help you with the slowing down of your internet, or maybe whatever it is that you want to do. So don't panic then, but just focus on, what is this saying? Maybe this provider, let's have a look at doing something fresh and new, because this Mercury retrograde is really about doing something new. Aries, doing something new when Mercury goes direct, that is in the sign of Aries. It's about the novelty and it's about freshness. It's about pioneering, doing something you've never done before. So a good thing would be like, oh, let's have a look at other providers. I mean, if this one can't help me, it's not impersonal. I'll look at other providers and use that Mercury retrograde for just, figuring it out, because that takes time, doesn't it? And no one likes to do that. If someone likes to do that, just write in the comments, because who likes to do that? But anyway, and then Mercury goes direct again, and boom, you make a new contract with a new provider, and guess what? It's all working well. It's going even faster, and it's cheaper. That's why Mercury retrogrades are for. That is how you want to use a Mercury retrograde. So don't fall into those, when you're reading books about the Mercury retrograde, and especially those older books, right? I mean, it's like, oh, it is like that, and you can't do anything about it. You can turn things around. So make it in your advantage, right? That example of the internet is a truly example that I've seen many, many times with people. The same with having that book, for instance, in your second house of you're having a car and it's not working, and do everything to solve the problem. The second house is your assets, your belongings, and then the Mercury goes direct. You have a new car or a new second hand, whatever, and it's even better than before, and blah 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 blah. So, of course, you can do that with people as well. I'm just kidding. But anyway, you understand what I'm trying to say here. Don't see the more you're gonna see it as, oh no, the Mercury retrograde, the more you're gonna have resistance, the more you're gonna have the negative side of that Mercury retrograde. Right? You don't want that. You want to use it in your favor. So when we're having that Mercury being in Pisces period, we just and we are like, oh, what's going on? Just enjoy it, that you don't know it. Enjoy it, and trust, Pisces, trust that, the insight will come. Before clarity, there's always unclarity, right? So it's a very interesting time. And don't forget, this Mercury retrograde is when it's in Pisces, and in the end of Pisces, beginning of Aries, it's very close to the Venus retrograde as well. So Venus and Mercury are very close to each other, which is a good thing. It can soften it, right? Especially when Mercury is in Aries, which is very sharp and quick thinking and quick talking and loud. With the Venus, it will try to be a little bit more gentle. People in their natal chart with Venus, Mercury retrograde, wow, they are the poets. They are the ones who say things beautifully. They don't say no directly. They kind of say, yep, and actually they're saying no. It's a bit of a more kind of feminine way of saying the truth, but it's with kindness. It's not better or worse, it's with kindness, and that's a good thing. And next, the aspects that are going to be very important with this Mercury retrograde as well, the same as the Venus retrograde, is that this Mercury retrograde is traveling, so to speak, very close to the North Node, which is around 27 degrees of Pisces, and Neptune, which is going to be at the very end of Pisces, 29 degrees, and then shift into Aries at 0 degrees on the rounded about the 31st of March. I've made a video of that as well, Neptune and Aries. So it's a very Neptunian, North Nodian kind of Mercury retrograde. Again, what does it mean? I already explained the Neptune, which is like, it's not being clear. You want clarity. You want to trust. That's the beauty of Neptune, trusting and being empathic, understanding, healing. It's not your fault, right? These kind of stuff. And the North Node is so important here as well, because the North Node shows the road that we are taking for our future. It's a Jupiterian kind of energy, the North Node. It's like, when you go towards it, you're going to grow. You're going to grow, and it becomes bigger. Now, we're going to have eclipses as well, and during the month of March. And Mercury will be very close to those eclipses. There's one at the 29th of March, or the 30th of March, and it's at 9, guess what? It's at 9 degrees of Aries. So it's bang on where that point where the Mercury goes backwards and forwards. So on the 29th of March, we're going to have that eclipse with the North Node, with Mercury. It shows a new way of expressing. A new way is born here. Because with eclipses, it takes a long time that it can, that you feel that energy afterwards. So there's something new here about our communication that we can do, pioneering and whatnot. And there's another eclipse, but that's one in Virgo. It's less important, so I'm not going to mention that because that is one on the 14th of March. But but still, yeah, that's going to be an eclipse with Mercury with the South Node. So around the 14th of March, it's more about getting rid of an old way of thinking, of an old idea, of an old way of communicating. And then the 29th of March is more towards the new way. What are we gaining? But this takes a bit of time here. So a very interesting time. And bottom line is that we're going towards a new way of communicating. We're going towards a new way of connecting. We're going towards a way that we haven't done before, because that's Aries after all. But it's almost like, yeah, you first have to let go of something, which is Pisces more, Neptune. And then on the 14th March, that South Node eclipse, first letting go of something old before we can start with the new. As I was giving with the example of the internet, you first deal with letting go of the old provider, which has provided you for a long time. So it's a bit scary to do that because you think, oh, we're going to have some problems here before you can go towards the new provider. Right? I know this may sound a very 3D simple example, but it's something just really like that. Astrology is not always like, oh, we're going to have births and deaths around us and whatnot. It's not always going to be that dramatic. So very fiery energy indeed. Let's have a look now at where this is happening. Oh yes, I want to say some 2 to 3 dates to put in your agenda, that it's still a bit of a watch out there. When Mercury is going to be with Neptune, it's around, most exact around the 30th of March. So if you feel like what's going on, it's normal. Then Mercury with the North Node, so you want those new stuffs, right? Those new things to explore and to communicate, new contracts and whatnot. Mercury is contracts as well. 1st of April, the planting of the seeds. Any contracts to do is best after the 8th of April. If you can, of course. If you do have to sign a contract for a job on the 1st of April or maybe the 28th of March, don't panic, right? It's just simple that there might be something coming up again that you have to readdress. It's not the end of the world. But no one likes that, right? But accept that it's the best to do. Okay, so let's get started. Where is this falling for the 12 signs? Very quickly, again, this is just the area of your life where you're going to go a little bit backwards and forwards. So for Aries, this is happening in your 12th house, your first house. So it's about the letting go of thoughts, of actually not knowing what's going on, you could say, and sometimes thinking, where is my rational mind? It could be that with Mercury there in Pisces. And when it goes into Aries, it's the whole intro is for you. It's a new way of how you communicate. It's a new way of how you communicate direct, but gentle. Remember, Venus conjunct Mars. It's nothing more, nothing less. And that means better relationships, for sure, for you. Taurians, the 11th house and the 12th house. Pisces, 11th house, 12th house, where Aries is. So this is about letting go of the way you communicate, the way you do relationships with friends, there's something an attitude that is not working for you. Or they reach out to you all of the time and you do nothing and you want to shift that. Or you always reaching out and you always do the most effort and you want to shift that. You want to say, not anymore. They have to invest as well. Something like that. On another level, it's goals. You want to get rid of an old goal that is no longer suiting you. Mercury in the 12th house is about rest. And it's about a new way of resting, a new way of reloading your battery. So making a faraway trip, for instance, could be very, very good for you. Spending time on yourself and contemplating what is a pattern that you don't want anymore, a blind spot that you have that all people know, but you seem to not know. You want to get rid of that. And there's a possibility of doing that for sure. Gemini, of course, Mercury is your ruler. You know how this works. But this is going on first in the 10th house where Pisces is, and then in the 11th house. So it's about getting rid of an attitude, a way of talking towards your career, or your connection with parents, or like a social status. So that is your social status. You want to get rid of that. Like, for instance, you're saying, oh, I'm single. I'm getting rid of that. I'm now connecting with someone. It could be as easy as that, the Mercury retrograde going on around your midheaven, because it's a second ascendant. But for most people, it's work and reviewing of work or shifting work and so on. And then you go to Mercury in the 11th house, which is all about new goals, new wishes for the future, new friends, new connections, new streams of income if you work for yourself. Very beautiful. Cancerians. This is happening in your 9th house, where Pisces is first, and then into your 10th house, where Aries is. So this is all about get rid of those belief systems. I keep on telling this to Cancerians. Your old belief systems, they might have worked in the past. I hope they did. They're not doing that anymore. Get rid of them. Move on, right? Move on. Certain belief systems are no longer healthy for you. So it's about healing that as well. And it's the 9th house is so broad. It's your viewpoint around what you believe in. So there's very, very important stuff like, do you believe in this or that? That's going to have a knock-on effect on the rest of your life. So there's some kind of energy there around thoughts and the inner critic. Is it really your inner critic, or is it some inner critic you've inherited from parents, teachers, whatever, that you want to get rid of? And then this pioneering energy in your 10th house of a new career or a new way of attitude towards work, a new project, a new social status. Social status, I mean, like being married, being divorced, having no kids, having kids. So that might be a new thing there for you as well. New connection or some sort of a new attitude towards your parents as well. Doing that in a new, fresh way. Leos, this is in your 8th house where Pisces is, turning into the 9th house where Aries is. So it's getting rid of imaginative fears. Pisces, it's healing from that. Karma, trauma, healing from your karma and trauma. And doing that by feeling them in the moment, addressing them, and then getting rid of them. It's a process that you cannot force. But here now the energies are here where it shows that it's a very good energy that this can happen for you. And I hope it will. So that you have, when it goes into Aries, this Mercury direct, that you have a totally new belief system. Another thing of the Piscean 8th house is things that have to do with money that you share with other people, or that are investments, that are money from the government, tax returns, inheritances, and all of that. So backwards and forwards, it can mean like, yeah, those communications or problems or challenges, they're done, and boom, they go into the 9th house, things go forwards, and you now know where you're standing. So go for a new, fresh mindset. It's so important for you. Broaden your perspective, broaden your mind, go travel, go to study, or you teach as well. Virgos, this is starting in your 7th house of relationships, and then it goes Aries into your 8th house. So the 7th house, it is about relationships. What are you doing that you now, and it's definitely connected with yourself as well, because you have that first eclipse on the 14th of March. It's in your sign, and it's about getting rid of an old attitude so that you can get rid of also an old attitude with a person that is no longer working for you. I say attitude. It can be for some Virgos who are saying, yeah, I'm having a relationship with someone. It's really, really bad. Yes, this can mean the end, particularly with the Neptune and whatnot. But for most people, it's a shift. It's a shift of your attitude in relationships. It has to do with you. What are you doing that is no good for the relationship, not for you and not for them? Maybe you are trying to fix these people. Don't do that, because if they don't want it, it's a waste of energy, and so on and so on. It might be something else as well, of course, but that's just an example. So get rid of the attitude that is no longer working for you, and the rest will follow. Then this Aries energy and Mercury in the 8th house is deep stuff, because it's your ruler, right? And it's like you now being transformed. So it's really getting rid of an attitude around relationships, and then you are transformed and understand yourself more on a deep psychological level. It might also have to do literally with life and death, that is on your mind. And in a new way, you want to go for, maybe when it's about resources that are involving another person, like your spouse or the tax return, the inheritances and all of that. It could mean with Mercury and Aries that this is on the forefront, and that you're dealing with this in a positive way, in a new way. Investments, for instance, as well, but also an interest in the occult. It could mean like a revival of that, an interest, and that you learn a lot around the metaphysical side of life. You have that boost here, and you're seeing it in a new way. Librans, 6th house, there it starts, the Piscean energy, and then into your 7th house of relationships. So it's about letting go of an old lifestyle. That might be an old work or an old attitude around work that you need to let go of. And the sooner you will do that, the more you will communicate in a new way with other people. And that is with important people in your life, romantic people, business partners, and whatnot. So it's a lot about understanding, fixing problems when that Mercury is in Pisces, but in a way that you trust rather than you chase too much. And it's a lot about those alternative ways as well. So like, for instance, maybe you have an illness and you're doing something classical, which is good, but you're doing also something alternative, Mercury, Pisces, Neptune, and so on, and a North Node. So you're doing this together. That's going to help you to improve your lifestyle, to improve your life, your mental health, your physical health. So that 7th house, this is about a lot of new contracts for you are possible after the 8th of April. You can go for it, right? With other people, a contract for this or for that. It's a beautiful time. And it's also about you renewing your relationships, giving them a fresh kind of energy there and understanding them better. So you might have to first focus a little bit more on relationships when it comes to the communication and how to do that in a different way, not too harsh, but not too gentle either. Remember, you have that Mercury with your ruler very close, also going backwards there. A huge emphasis on doing relationships differently. So after all these retrogrades of Venus and Mercury, you're gonna relate to people in a different way, and you're gonna do that in a way that is more positive for you and for others as well. So it's also learning how to speak up for yourself, right? But in a gentle way, and affirm. Scorpios, sorry, Scorpios. Almost forgot Scorpios. Now, this is happening in the Piscean energy in your 5th house, and then in the 6th house where Aries is. So for Scorpios, this is lovely when it's in Pisces because it's trining your energy, but it's about a letting go of maybe an old love, and this goes really smoothly. This is just about you reassessing that love that you had in the past, for instance, or the way that you loved, and you're saying goodbye to that. You're ready for a new level of loving that is deeper, that is more true to who you are now today. On another level, this has to do with a child might, go to college and leave the house, for instance, and you're feeling good about it, but it's still a say goodbye uh, to that part of your life. It's very nostalgic. It could also mean a lover coming back into your life, back and forwards of that, or it could mean a new love that comes in, and that you're like reassessing what's going on. What do I do with this? And so it's all about this reassessment of the things that you love in your life. It's also hobbies and the things that you love to do. You might go back to it. You might say, that is something that this hobby, I'm going to stop it because I have another one, or and so on. This is not fulfilling anymore, and so on. The sixth house, where this Aries energy is about your lifestyle. So you have an opportunity, dear Scorpios, to have a new lifestyle. A lifestyle that is something about it that is more fresh, more active. So you could be doing a new routine or thinking about it, how you're going to do it. A contract, for instance, with a fitness, whatever, with this Mercury going direct on, especially after the 7th, 8th of April. It could also mean work. You're reconsidering it. You're doing a new work, a new job, or maybe this in the same work, but a different function there. Lovely. Sagittarians, this is happening in your 4th house when it's in Pisces, and then in your 5th house, which is very positive for you. But let's start with the 4th house. So there's a lot of clearing up happening for you, clearing up of emotions, right? This is like, especially it's about dissolvement of the old you, the child. It's a lot about healing the child within you. So you could be returning, for instance, when it's in Pisces, to your home country. If you live in another country, you could be or looking a bit nostalgic. For instance, looking in albums with pictures when you were a child or when you were younger, and you're kind of giving it a place, the good, the bad, and the ugly that happened when you were younger. You're giving it a place. It's dissolving, and you see it's not you anymore, but you know where you're coming from, and that is a very healing thing, that emotion that you are feeling. It's also about the attachment that you had towards family and ancestry. There is a bit more dissolvement. There is more of a inner knowing that you are now your own best parent, and that is very important for you in order for you to be who you want to be. When this, on another level, this is about selling a house and buying a new home, right? This is literally also a home, and um, but it's a very healing energy, so use it for that, healing the past, that is. And then it's just into Aries, the Mercury that goes backwards and forwards in Aries in your 5th house is lovely for you because you're a fellow fire sign. So this is about new love coming in, and you're reassessing it, or someone else from the past comes in and you are rekindling that love. Can also mean that communication with the child, if you have children, and there is like a new way of you communicating with them because they are upgrading and they're getting older, and they're starting to speak, for instance. It was a baby and now they start speaking, or they're having this new conversations that you've never had before. It's about your actions and what you're driven by, and all of that. Also hobbies that maybe you did as a child and you want to pick them up again, old hobbies and old ways of how you enjoy yourself. It's a lot about expression. So very beautiful. Capricorns, this is starting in the 3rd house of Pisces, then going into the 4th house. Now that 3rd house, I watched the intro because there I give an example of Mercury retrograde in the 3rd house with the internet problems. And but on another level, the communication, it could be like, oh, what's going on here? But you just stay calm, you trust, and you do your best in the moment, and things will reveal itself. On another level, it's communication with siblings and neighbors. So there could be some things going on here, or an old way of communicating that you did with siblings and neighbors. It's just dissolving, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there could be some healing going on here as well. So use that for that. a bit of a healing energy towards your communication. And then it goes, this Mercury, into your fourth house where Aries is. So there could be new plans, new thoughts around home and family. Maybe you want to have a new home, or maybe you want to renovate, or whatever it is. There's something new here. If it's not that, it's more on an emotional level. You want to respond in a new way. You want to respond differently when it comes to your emotions and mastering them in an upgrade kind of way, which is beautiful. Aquarians, this is starting in your second house of Pisces and then goes into your third house. So with the second house of Pisces, this is, I talked about that. Mercury is about thinking. Second house is money. So you're rethinking about money and letting go of all the ways how you kind of get money and also for the money and gain money. So there might be new ways that are emerging here, but first you have to get rid of an old way. It's also assets, as I said in the beginning of the intro, I gave the example of maybe you're having a computer, it's not, or a car, it's not working good anymore. You're finding ways to improve it. You're using this Mercury retrograde. You're getting rid of something that served you, but now you're ready for something new. And it may take effort from you when calling people and maybe looking for some financial advice. It's a good way to do that. But in the beginning, you might be a bit like, oh, overwhelming. But then when Mercury goes direct again, you see more clarity, especially you see more clarity when this Mercury goes direct around and about the 7th to 8th of April. And then you can do new stuff, new structures, new accountants that you work with, for instance, and so on. So on another level, you can really declutter during this time when Mercury is in Pisces. It's a good time to declutter. It's a good time to get rid of possessions that no longer are you. And then it goes into your third house, Mercury, which is when you have your own business, fantastic. It's in Aries, so you are developing something that you want to do for a PR in a new way that you've never done before. So it could mean like getting rid of an old website, starting a new one. Could be that. Mercury in the third house is also about, watch the intro. I talked about internet problems, or I talked about traveling and so on. I gave that example, watch the intro. But on another level, with the Mercury retrograde in the third house, it's a new way of thinking. It's a new way of communicating with siblings and neighbors. So you could do like, oh, this is not good what I'm doing with my communication, what they're doing with me. I'm going to shift it. I'm going to look at it first, examine it, and then introduce a new way of speaking with them, a new attitude that's got to be more fresh, more matching your vibe as well. It's going to be direct, yes, but with that Venus there as well, it's going to be gentle and kind at the same time. So there's a lot of activity for you with this, especially Mercury when it's in Aries. It's going to be a lot of emails, a lot of calls, a lot of backwards and forwards. That's not necessarily a bad thing at all, especially if you have your own business. This means a lot of sales could be made here. And Pisceans, this is of course happening first in the sign of Pisces, this Mercury retrograde, which is you, and then shifting into your second house. So when Mercury is in Pisces, this is an opportunity for you to profile yourself in a new way. You've got those times that you say, now I'm gonna speak differently. I'm gonna speak louder, not louder. Not as loud as, or I'm going to speak with shorter sentences, with larger sentences, whatever it is, there's a good opportunity for you to shift the way that you speak, to shift the way that you talk about yourself, to shift the way that you deal with relationships, because this Mercury rules your seventh house of relationships. And that might be coming to you and try to talk things through, which is a good time. So for relationships, there's a lot happening with you because you have that North Node in your sign, the South Node in the sign of Virgo. So yes, for those Pisceans, small percentage, but for those Pisceans who have a very bad relationship, this is the moment where you can say, not anymore. I'm saying no now. I'm drawing here a line. This is the boundary, and so on, particularly with that Saturn in your sign as well. But for most of you, this is of a new way of communicating, and therefore you're going to attract other people. You're going to attract different people. And so when Mercury goes into Aries in your second house, there is a renewal of your self-worth and your confidence, and also an invitation to get more money in by the work that you do, to get more value. And that is only when you work on your talents and when you believe that you have that confidence to express yourself in a certain way. So very beautiful for the Pisceans, that transition of Pisces and Aries, which is all about letting go of an old way of communicating that is no longer suited. Maybe you never said no. Well, starting to say no, but in a gentle way, right? So that you feel valuable, that you feel that you are worth it. And because of that, you attract new ways of money. Now, when Mercury is in Aries, it's a good time for you to examine your financial status. So it's a good way to examine, to explore, maybe asking an accountant or another account, working with another one or whatever, to give you some financial advice. Then when Mercury goes direct, you see more insights. You have more insights, particularly at the end of April, beginning of May, because then Mercury will go direct again in the sign of Aries, which is your second house. No, I'm saying at the end of April. I knew I was wrong. Sorry. It's on the 17th of April. Mercury will already be again from Pisces to shifting to Aries. So from that on, the 17th of April, new ways of doing finances, new ways of hustling for the money, maybe a new income stream. And you've been working on that before the 17th of April. And so a lot of novelty when it comes to money and creating your own money. The second house is creating your own money. So this is about that. And also old stuff that you want to get rid of. Declutter. Pisceans, do that. It's a very good time for you when that Mercury is in Aries. So very, very interesting, because then you make space for things that are really, really important for you, that are exuding the same energy as you are exuding right now at this particular moment, because otherwise we get things around us that block us. So read some feng shui and declutter YouTube videos or whatever. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and I'm wishing you all the best. Check out the website if you want to have a reading. The link is below in the description box. I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.